Well, thank you very much, Becky, and it is a pleasure to be here and a privilege to be here at Liberty University and with this great panel. Our thanks to Matt Staver and another great Awakening Conference. By the way, thank you very much, Matthew, for getting my name right. Calatayud is not that easy. In fact, I learned it 2 weeks ago myself. But my name is Tony Calatayud. I am with Salem Communications. You might have heard of us. We have 100 stations across the country. I run the Miami cluster of 3 stations, which include, by the way, 2 Christian stations, 1 Spanish and 1 English. And also I led the beginning and the commencement of Salem Español, starting the biggest Hispanic Christian radio network across the country. Politically, I am the chairman, as of about a year and a half, of Conservadores. Conservadores, basically the vision. You know, that tsunami that's coming, the Hispanic. Well, we don't want to get run over by it. We want to be on the wave with it. Well, we want to bring those Hispanics who've been hijacked by the left and at some point been given indifference to the right. We want them under one umbrella so we can grow this conservative movement in a major way on the Hispanic side. We began with a roar, I think. Our first candidate was 3 points in the poll a year and a half ago. Maybe you know him, Marco Rubio. By the way, Marco didn't need anybody. He was the architect for his own thing, but we were there from the beginning. He was the model of what we wanted to do.
I'd like to now turn to Tony. You know, you heard from Ted Cruz earlier tonight, and we talked a little bit about Marco Rubio, and both of these gentlemen have wonderful stories about how their parents fled a communist state and came to America in hopes of a better life for their families. And a lot of the times discussions about immigrants, and particularly Cuban immigrants, but other Latino immigrants, focuses on the economic issues. Tell us a little bit about your experience from the Hispanic community and how they might think of these 3 legs of the stool or the braid.
Well, it's interesting. I think right now we're living in a world where every conservative has to live in all 3 of these worlds. I mean, there's no way you can separate. Well, I'm a fiscal conservative, but socially, I mean, you can't do that if you're a real conservative. By the way, I also wanted to share, this is probably one of the most perilous and dangerous times in our country. But I've never been so excited in my entire life. Because I've never seen an underground movement such as happening today. Yes or no?
Yes.
It is. Something got sparked. Let me tell you, something got sparked in me. For a long time, I've been helping Republican candidates and so forth in Miami, which is a big Republican hotbed. And for years, I went over and punched my Republican ballot. And I had a throw the remote against the wall moment in 2007 when I saw this Barack Obama smokescreen coming. I mean, literally, it was one of those, you know, I'm with my wife on the sofa, and I go like this, and I threw it, and I go, that's it. I'm in. I'm in big. I'm in to stay. I'm not in for a season. Because we can't be here for a season. Because let me tell you, the left and the radicals always want to come back and attack. Getting into Cuba, you know, it's interesting hearing Ted's story, Marco's story, incredible story, about, you know, immigrants and how they come in. My father was fighting Castro. And when they found out he was doing that, they were going to put him on a firing squad. This is before he married my mother, before I came. Had to leave at 12 o'clock on a little boat. Got to Miami. Then went back to the Bay of Pigs, by the way, to fight him. But it didn't stop there. You talk about tyranny coming over here. Between the ages of 8 and 14, they tried to assassinate my father 4 times. I remember him having R-15 and M16 rifles in the closet. I go, what's that? He goes, don't worry, they're not loaded, don't touch them. I thought it was a toy. He said, no, it's not a toy. And my mother was very angry about that, but they were still there. As it turns out, every time we got home for 6 years, my brother, my mother, and I would run into the house, and he would come out with a gun on the other side, just in case they're going to shoot him. They'd shoot him alone. I never could be at dusk or at night next to a window. In other words, what was happening here, you know that American exceptionalism we're always talking about? You know, there was Cuban exceptionalism. Cuba was a beautiful country. Still is in many ways. The dollar was par with the United States in 1959. It was the biggest producer of nickel in the world, sugar in the world, tobacco in the world. That's a pretty good country. Beautiful women and good beaches. Okay? I know, I married one. And you know what? It got lost. We didn't keep our eye on the ball. We lost it. They took it from us. And that tyranny then tried to attack us here with assassination attempts, which, by the way, one of them was a bomb 10 feet from my window when I was 10 years old, and the detonator fell off. If not, I would have been with the Lord a lot sooner. But you know what? There's stories of immigrants, but more importantly, I think every immigrant, I go across the country, building Spanish Christian radio stations and talking to people of all nationalities that are Hispanic. They love this country. They're blessed to be here. They want to continue, being able to be a fiber and a fabric of this great nation that we love. I'm an American of Cuban descent. I'm an American. I'll die for this country. Okay? Right now is the greatest time we've ever lived. And you know what? The church is the most important thing right now. When I was in Miami, I did a little survey. We've got 2 stations and probably have about 600 churches we know in English and Spanish over there. I did a survey of 2 pastors, friends of mine, had 600 members. Of those, this is for November 2010. 600 people, 80 voted. 110 couldn't vote. They were undocumented. 400 people, conservative in nature, didn't vote. If the church united would say, this is our governor, these are our 2 senators, these are our legislature, it's over. We need to be inside our churches speaking to the pastor and going, Pastor, based on those principles you're preaching, let's get the word out of the men and women that have those principles, and let's get them into office.
Excellent point.
That I don't think we have time to wait to vote someone out of office.
Okay, I hear a question in there, and I'm going to give the panelists a chance to answer, but keep in mind, none of us serve in the Congress.
By the way, I love your passion. I love your passion. Now, let me ask you honestly a question. Were you that passionate last quarter of 2008 prior to the elections of Obama?
Yeah, I've been in this scene since 1999 waiting for the church.
You've been waiting for the church to rise up. You're exactly right. You know what? I believe these last 2 years are rising that church that you're asking for. And the other thing, too, you want to see him gone in 2012? Let's get Marco Rubio against him and whip him.
All right.